Have you ever looked at an exam question and wondered what the examiner is really looking for? Well, today we're going to peel back the curtain. We're going to tackle a full 14-mark GCSE Biology question on cystic fibrosis, and we'll use the official mark scheme to decode exactly how you can think like an examiner and bag every single mark.
So, what's the secret sauce? It's not just about knowing your stuff. It's about presenting it in a way that just ticks every single box for the person marking your paper. In this explainer, we're going to break down that whole process, showing you exactly where those hidden marks are and how you can structure your answers to make sure you get them.
All right, let's dive in. We're looking at question 2 from the AQA paper, and it all kicks off with this diagram right here. The question focuses on cystic fibrosis and how it impacts some key organs, the lungs, the pancreas, and the small intestine. Let's get started.
First up, the quick-fire questions. These are the easy wins. Really straightforward one-mark answers that are basically designed to get you warmed up and build a little confidence. So let's get these marks in the bag.
Okay, question 02.1, a classic recall question. Where in a cell would the CF gene be found? It's just one mark, so we need a really precise, sharp answer.
And here's our first peek behind the curtain at the mark scheme. The perfect answer is nucleus. But look closer. It says allow chromosome, which means that's also a totally valid full mark answer. But then it says ignore in the DNA. Now this is a massive clue. In the DNA isn't technically wrong, but it's not specific enough. So here's our first big rule for thinking like an examiner. Precision is absolutely everything.
All right, next up, question 02.2. We're jumping back to that diagram we saw at the start. This time, it's a simple identification task. Which letters show the lungs, the pancreas, and the small intestine? Another quick mark is up for grabs here.
And yeah, the only correct answer is A, D, and E. That's A for the lungs, D for the small intestine, and E for the pancreas. There's no wiggle room on this one, it's just a straight identification. Okay, 2 marks down, 12 more to go.
Right, now for the main event, the one everyone's wary of, the 6-marker. These can feel like a huge mountain to climb, but honestly, they're your chance to really show what you know. The secret is just to break it down into smaller, manageable chunks. Let's start with the first part, which is all about digestion.
So the question is asking why someone with CF has trouble digesting food. We need to connect the dots between the condition and the actual biological process. The mark scheme gives us a roadmap for this, something called indicative content, which is basically a checklist of all the points the examiner is hoping to see.
Just look at this. The mark scheme lays it all out for you. You can't just say they have fewer enzymes. You got to be specific. There's a clear formula here. Name the enzyme like lipase, and then you state its specific job, breaking down fat. You can just follow this formula for each of the food groups: lipase for fats, amylase for carbs, and protease for proteins. The key is that cause and effect link. Less enzyme means less breakdown. Simple as that.
Okay, let's tackle the second half of this 6-marker and see how this all connects. The question also wants to know why a person with CF finds it difficult to gain body mass. This is all about linking those digestion problems to the bigger picture of growth and energy.
This slide shows the domino effect perfectly, doesn't it? It all starts with poor digestion. Because the food isn't being broken down properly, the body can't absorb those essential building blocks, like glucose and amino acids, and that sets off a chain reaction. You've got fewer materials for growth, less fat being stored, and less respiration, which ultimately means less energy for the body to grow. See? It's all connected.
So, how do you actually get all 6 of those marks? You've got to climb the ladder. A level 1 answer is just, a list of a few simple facts. A level 2 answer starts to connect those facts. But to get to the top, for a level 3 answer, you need to tell a complete logical story, linking all the key points with good detail, and this is crucial. You must talk about both parts of the question, the digestion and the body mass, to get into that top end.
Okay, we are on the home stretch now. The final parts of the question, 02.4 and 02.5, are 3 markers that continue this whole theme of cause and effect, but this time we're shifting our focus to the respiratory system.
Question 02.4 asks you to describe 3 features of the alveoli that help maximize gas exchange. This is a pure knowledge question, but again, that precision is absolutely key.
Here they are, the 3 magic phrases the examiner is looking for. A large surface area, a good blood supply, and thin walls. And definitely notice the fine print. The mark scheme specifically says do not accept thin cell walls. That's a classic trip-up. It also says to ignore any mention of the alveoli being moist. It's just another reminder that in these exams, the exact wording you use really matters.
And finally, question 02.5. For 3 marks, explain the effect of reduced oxygen in the blood. This one requires you to link what's happening in the cells to what's happening in the whole body.
And this is where it gets really interesting. The mark scheme actually gives you 2 different paths to get to the same destination, full marks. You can take route 1 and focus on how less oxygen leads to less aerobic respiration and therefore less energy. Or you could take route 2, explaining how the body switches to anaerobic respiration, which produces lactic acid. Both routes are completely valid, which is a fantastic thing to remember in an exam. There isn't always just one right way to explain something.
So, we've broken down all 14 marks. What have we actually learned? Let's do a quick summary of the key strategies you can take away from this explainer and use on pretty much any question you face.
So what are our golden rules? First, be super precise with your scientific language. Second, learn to read the mark scheme like it's a secret code. Allow and do not accept are your biggest clues. Third, for those big questions, you need to be a storyteller, connecting the dots logically. And finally, don't forget that sometimes there can be more than one right path to the answer.
By learning to think like an examiner and understanding exactly what they're looking for, you can turn a question that seems scary into a chance to show off your knowledge. So, the only real question left is, what are you going to apply to the very next question you tackle?